about someone who's taking a stand about the government and who's going to win. The fiscal cliff debacle. Just when it seems like some movement was being made, we're hearing a new idea that could derail all of it, a hike in the federal gas tax. Are we going to see higher prices as a result of this deal? With me now is Senator Jim Inhofe. Welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, nice to be with you, Melissa.
What do you think? I mean, a higher federal gas tax, this is something that was getting a lot of buzz throughout the day today. Do you think this is a real possibility?
No. Well, yeah, it has a possibility, but Melissa, you got to keep in mind, they're doing this because the only popular tax around is the gas tax. People assume that the money, when they pay at the pump, and it goes into the Highway Trust Fund, it's going to be used to build roads and bridges and to maintain. Yeah, that's a popular thing. People think we need that. So to me, it's deceptive to load the extravagance of the Obama administration to be paid off by people paying a gas tax.
Yeah.
They did it. You probably didn't know this. They did it in 1990. They did it in 1993. It was about a nickel increase each time. So at that time, that almost doubled the gas tax.
Not only that, it's so incredibly regressive. I mean, it hits the exact people that they talk about protecting and that Democrats talked about protecting in the last election. It goes right after. I mean, it hits the middle class and lower income people the hardest, of course, because it's incredibly regressive. Let me ask you, I feel like today when I was hearing, talk about trying to close this gap, we're looking under every rock for more money and more tax revenue. It doesn't seem like we're talking about cutting spending very much. Is that the right impression?
Well, let's keep in mind, Melissa, you and I know this. A lot of your viewers may not know that we have that $5.3 trillion of deficit because of one person, and that's Obama. Now, he doesn't seem to be changing his behavioral patterns now, and so it's not getting any better. How could he, with his own budget, come up with $5.3 trillion of deficit in 4 years, and then say, well, now we have to somehow find $1.2 trillion for 10 years. Meantime, he's going to continue to go ahead and increase the deficit. So I don't have any faith in it. Look, this morning I was on Fox and Friends, and I outlined a lot of alternatives that we could do where we wouldn't have to raise taxes. One was, I've already introduced legislation that would take care of that, and we covered it at some length. But if you look at what's happened in the past, the best way to do this is to get all these regulations out of the way so people can grow their own businesses. For every 1% increase in economic activity, that translates into $40 billion of new revenue.
Yeah.
That's where it can come from. And remember, that was Kennedy back in the 60s. He's the guy that discovered that. That wasn't a Republican idea.
And you're talking about regulation there, and I know you've been really focused on the EPA, so I don't want to run out of time without asking you. We're going to have the CEO of TransCanada on later, Russ Girling, talking about the Keystone XL pipeline. This is another thing that we left to be resolved after the election. Do you think that we're going to see that full pipeline approved and put into place? What do you think?
Well, I think obviously we should, but you still have the far left is going to be pulling on the president on any influence that he would have. Let's keep in mind that pipeline, by the way, goes through my state of Oklahoma.
Yes.
A big intersection is right there in Oklahoma. So I got a dog in that fight. And that's something that there's absolutely no reason not to see all the way through. And yet he's going to be fighting it. So I don't know how that's going to turn out. I would say this, though, the one thing that we know is going to continue to increase, because you might recall before the election, I came out with the 8 increases in regulations that he was going to do after the election. Now, to do this, he had to violate a law, because there's a law that says every 6 months you have to come out with the cost in terms of jobs and money of new regulations. And that was due the 31st of October. He just flagrantly disobeyed the law, so people didn't know. But now we're looking at these huge things that are coming on us. And I'm talking about
No,
well, you've seen the whole list.
I hear you. It's agonizing. No, I hear you. Senator, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Melissa.
So here's our